Hey guys, I am officially back. I know it's been a while since you guys have seen a video from me. It is October 19th and Coralei is 2 weeks and 2 days old. She was born on October 3rd and yeah, here she is. I'll show her to you quickly. She may get hungry during this video, so I might have to feed her, but ooh, here she is, and yeah, she's gonna try to eat my face. Try to eat my face. Here. There. But there she is. Alright, so let's get right into it. My labor and delivery story actually starts on Monday, October 1st. I got a chiropractor adjustment that morning because I was having some lower back pain, so I went ahead and got adjusted at the chiropractor. And then I had a night class that night. So I had a night class from 6 o'clock till 9, from 6:30 until 9 o'clock at night. And I was on my phone and I was having a lot of back pain, so I was just, I remember posting on Facebook, you know, I'm having a lot of back pain today, even though I just got adjusted. What's going on? I don't know why my back's hurting so much. So, yeah, and then I got home that night, and I was, actually I got home that night, and then I got ready for bed, and then I got into bed to read a play that I needed to read for my English class, because I had a quiz the following day. So I was reading my, my play for school, and I was laying on my side, and I went to turn a little bit, and I felt a pop and a gush. So my water broke, and it was 10:45 at night when it broke, and I was just like in complete shock. I was like, I'm just laying here in bed reading my play. Why on earth did my water just randomly break? So it was enough that I needed to change my underwear, and it was dripping down my leg a little bit. And so I called Thomas, and I'm like, Thomas, my water broke. And he's like, oh my gosh. So he went to tell his parents, and I was really calm this time. Like when, I'm going to have to feed her. Like when my water broke with Jayden, I was like freaking out. And it was like a huge gush with Jayden. Like with Jayden, like it popped and then it wouldn't stop gushing. Like I didn't want to move off of the toilet because it was gushing so much. With her, it wasn't like that. It was like that first initial gush, and then it really wasn't anything after that, but like little tiny trickles. So at first I was like, oh my gosh, maybe it didn't break. Maybe I was just peeing myself, because it feels exactly like you are peeing yourself. And you're like, how does it feel like you're peeing yourself when, you know, but it's just the strangest feeling, and it really just feels like you're peeing yourself. So, okay, so she's eating, but anyways, so Thomas called my doula to let her know that my water broke. I texted my birth photographer to let her know that my water broke, and then I called the number that for my midwife. And when I did that, it was after hours, so I didn't get the actual office, but I got like a call center. And what they do is they page the midwife on call when, you know, someone goes into labor or when someone's water breaks or things like that. So she's like, okay, well, we will page the nurse, or we'll page the midwife on call, and then she will call you back. And call back in 20 minutes if she has not called you. Well, I can't remember exactly what time I called back, because I never got an answer from her. So it was like an hour later. I was supposed to call 20 minutes later, but I didn't. So I called like an hour later again, and they repaged her, and they told me, you know, don't wait an hour this time. If she doesn't call you back in 20 minutes, then you need to call us back. So I'm like, okay. But she called right away. I talked to the midwife on the phone, and she said that I could stay home until contractions started to pick up, because at that point I wasn't feeling any kind of contractions at all. And she said, you know, you can stay home, get some rest, take a shower, and only come in if you are experiencing heavy bleeding, or if the fluid is not clear, and if it's green or brown, or if it's anything but clear, then you can come in. So as long as my fluid was clear, and as long as I wasn't having any contractions or bleeding, I was it was safe to stay home. So that's what I did. I waited and waited for contractions to pick up, and they never ever did. So I went to bed. I woke up the next morning. Oh, I forgot to say, on the phone she said, well, if nothing starts to pick up by 10 o'clock in the morning, then go ahead and come in at 10. So I went to bed, I woke up, still wasn't having any contractions. So I got out my breast pump, and I was pumping a little bit to try to see if I could get contractions to start. And still absolutely nothing, was not feeling any kind of contractions. I ate breakfast, and then Thomas and I walked up and down our lane. We have like a gravel lane here that's pretty long. And we walked up and down, hoping to get contractions started, and still nothing. So I think it was like at 10:30 we decided to just go ahead and go into the birth center. So we did that. We called on the way there to let the birth center know that we were coming. And when we got there, we went to like the admission desk, and the lady took me to the wrong spot. So she took me to the wrong spot. She took me to the regular labor and delivery. For those of you who don't know, the birth center is right inside the hospital, so it's right next to the regular labor and delivery. So they hooked me up to the contraction monitors and to monitor her heartbeat. And the contraction monitor said that it showed that I was contracting, but the contractions just weren't very strong, so I really couldn't feel them. They kind of just felt like Braxton Hicks to me. They didn't feel like real contractions. So they made me drink some juice because they wanted her to move around so that they could monitor like her X cells or whatever. So I drank some juice and did that, and then my midwife realized where I was, and she told them, the lady who checked us in was like, okay, do you know if you're group B strep positive or negative? And I told her I was positive, and she's like, okay, well, we will get you on the monitors for 20 minutes to monitor you, and then we will check you and test to see if it's actually your amniotic fluid with, the little pH paper or whatever. And then she left, and she came back, and then the midwife realized where I was and realized I was in the wrong spot, and they're like, no, don't check her. We don't want her to be checked or anything like that, so that we don't risk infection. So I didn't get checked at all. After that, I got sent over to the birthing center, and they put me in a room, and then they started my first round of IV. Actually, I'm looking at the notes my doula left. So my doula arrived at 11. I don't remember exactly what time we arrived at the birth center. I wish I did. It was probably around 11:20 or so, 11:15 maybe. And my doula arrived at 11:35, and they started my first IV for my first round of antibiotics at 12:14. And that was really, really fast. It literally took maybe like 5 minutes for the antibiotics to go in my arm, and then they just unhooked it, and I had the thing left in my arm because I had to get that done every 4 hours. So after that, a massage therapist came in and to work on massaging. She massaged my feet and my back, and she worked on some pressure points to try to get contractions going, and let me tell you, that was awesome. It was so nice. She had a Kindle Fire, and it had like relaxing music on it, and I put the headphones on, and I was listening to the music on there as she was rubbing my feet and massaging my feet, and it was just heaven. It felt so, so good. So she did that. She worked on pressure points, and then she did my back, and then she was showing Thomas some things that he could do while I was in labor to help with the pain. So that was really, really nice. She used like massage oils and all that fun stuff. So it was really, really nice. So So they did that, and then when she left, the midwife gave me, or my doula gave me some kind of homeopathic pills that were supposed to help get labor started. I don't even know what they were, but I'll have to ask her about that. So they were like little tablets, and I had to put them under my tongue, and they dissolved. I think I took like 3 doses of those, like every couple hours or so. And at 2:52, the midwife came in to check me. After, you know, the antibiotics had some time to work in my system. She came in and checked me, and I was 3 to 4 centimeters, 95% effaced. So that was a little discouraging because that's what I was at my last OB appointment. I was 3, almost 4 centimeters, 90% effaced. So I was a little bit more effaced, but other than that, I hadn't really made much progress. And at that point, my water had been broken for quite a while. So I was a little discouraged that I wasn't further dilated than that. And so what we did was, our plan of action kind of was, I think I had lunch. I had lunch in between there at some point. I ate some lunch, and then basically what we did to try to get my contractions going is I would pump for 10 minutes on the breast pump. With the breast pump, they brought me in a breast pump. I'd pump for 10 minutes, and then we would walk the halls. Then I'd come back. I would pump for 10 minutes and then walk the halls. And I did that over and over again, trying to get contractions started. Because when the midwife checked me, she said that I had until 10:45 that night for contractions to get going, and if they hadn't started up yet, then I would have to be transferred to the regular labor and delivery to be put on Pitocin to get things moving, because they didn't feel comfortable with letting me go any longer than that, with my water being broken and me being Group B strep positive. So this whole time I felt like I had this deadline that I had to meet. Like by 10:45 tonight, I had to be in hard active labor, or I'm going to be transferred to labor and delivery. So I was really stressed out about that, and I was feeling really down, and I was doing everything I could to try to get contractions to start, but no matter what I did, nothing was happening. And just the minutes just kept going by, and I still wasn't having any contractions, and it was so discouraging. And I was pumping so much that my nipples were already getting sore, and it was just awful. You know, all I wanted to do was just lay there and wait for contractions to start, but my doula was really adamant about me staying active and pumping and walking to try to get these contractions to start. And I know a couple times I broke down and started crying because I just felt like nothing was going the way I had planned. I just felt like everything was going against me, and that I was going to end up having to have Pitocin. And I really didn't want that, obviously. So we kind of did that all day until about 8 o'clock that night is when my contractions finally started to pick up, and they started to become painful. And while we were walking in the halls, I noticed when I was having a contraction that my back hurt so bad. So I had to have counter pressure. I had my doula or Thomas push on my back during a contraction to help with the pain. So that started around 8 o'clock. So at 10:45, the midwife came back in to check me, and I was 7 centimeters. So I was 7 centimeters and paper thin. She said my cervix was very paper thin. So that was good to know that I was making progress, and that I was actually in active labor at that point, and that they were going to let me stay there, and there was no risk of needing Pitocin at that point. And when she went in, she tried to stretch my cervix, and holy cow, I will never forget that pain. It hurt so bad that like I screamed out and like started crying, and I'm like, no, stop, don't do that. It was awful. Never, ever again do I ever want to have that done to me again. It was awful. So after she checked me, she's like, so do you want to get in the birth tub? I'm like, wow, it's already time to get in the birth tub, because I really wanted to wait until I was really far into active labor before getting in the birth tub. And she's like, do you want to get in the birth tub? I'm like, yeah, I want to get in the birth tub. So I started filling the birth tub up, and then I got in the birth tub. So that was probably around 11 o'clock I got in the birth tub. And that's when contractions really started to become really painful, really fast, all of a sudden. So at one point, Thomas got in the birth tub with me to try to see like if him being in there could help me. Because I didn't like that when my legs were floating in the water for some reason. I hated that. So Thomas got in to help, trying to help like hold me down so I would have something to grab onto. So he stayed in the birth tub with me for a little bit. And while I was in there, I would go from being really hot to really cold. So when I was really, ouch! So when I was really hot, they would fan me with the fan, which that was an amazing thing. I'm so glad my doula brought that because that felt so good. So she would fan me with the fan when I was hot, and then when I was really, really cold, they'd put a blanket over my shoulders and they would run the hot water on me. So I would go back and forth from being really hot to really cold, really hot to really cold. So then at 1:40 a.m. I got checked again because I was in quite a bit of pain, and I really just needed to know how much longer am I going to have to endure this pain. I was not handling the contractions very well. They would come, and like the pain, like you just, unless you've been in labor, there's no way to describe that awful, awful pain of a contraction. And they were so intense, and every time I would have a contraction, it felt like my back was breaking in half. It was horrible, and I had to have that counter pressure on my back, and I just felt like I was being ripped in half every time I was having a contraction, and it was awful. And I remember saying, I can't do it, I can't do it. It just hurts too much, and I was very vocal during my labor. If you've seen my labor and delivery footage, get off, don't mess with the camera. If you've watched my labor and delivery video, you saw how I was dealing with the contractions. I wasn't dealing with them very well because they were really, really intense. So at 1:40, I got checked again by one of the nurses, and I was still 7 centimeters. And then at that point, the nurse thought that the baby might be posterior, which I knew at that point. I knew that she was posterior because of all the back labor I was having. So from 10:45 to 1:40 in the morning, I was in the most pain of my life, and I hadn't dilated anymore. I was still at 7 centimeters. I felt so defeated at that point because like it felt like I was showing all the signs of already being in transition. You know, I was getting nauseous during contractions, and I was saying I can't do this, and the pain was just getting really intense. So we all thought that, you know, I was really close. So we thought, you know, she was going to say I was 9 centimeters or maybe even 10 centimeters. So when she went in and said I was only 7 centimeters, I was devastated. And that right there was my turning point. Before everything before then, I was still completely, all right, go. I was completely sure, I was positive that I was going to have this water birth. But once she checked me at that point and I was still only 7 centimeters, I lost everything. Like, my world just like came crushing down. And I just couldn't even imagining having to go any longer, go 3 more centimeters. Like I couldn't even wrap my mind around going any further for 3 more centimeters, especially when I had been stalled out at 7 centimeters for so long. Like at that point I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. It could be, you know, here I am thinking that I'm almost done, and then finding out that it could be a few more hours. Like I couldn't wrap my head around that. And I started to have a panic attack because I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? I'm already in so much pain, and I still have so much longer to go. So at 1:50, I got out of the birth tub because I needed some pain relief. So they said that they could give me some morphine to help with the pain, and that way I could get some rest, and then I could get, when I woke up, I could get back in the birth tub. So I got out of the birth tub, which was awful. Getting out of the birth tub was terrible. You know, I could hardly walk. I was in so much pain, but they finally got me over to the bed, and they put some morphine in my IV, and they also gave me a morphine shot. One was so that it would start working quickly, and the other one was so it would last a while. And then they also gave me some Finugrin, or however you pronounce that, for nausea, because I was getting nauseous. So they did that, and Thomas and I, everyone left our room, and Thomas and I got in bed, and we both fell asleep. So that was at 1:55 in the morning, and then I woke up around 3:30 or so, having extremely bad contractions. Like, the contractions were back to being absolutely awful. And when I woke up, I remember begging, can I just have another dose of morphine, please? Can I just please have a little bit more? And she's like, no, honey, sorry, there's nothing else we can do for you as far as pain relief goes. You can get back in the birth tub, but that's the only pain relief that we can provide you over here. And she checked me, and I was at 8 centimeters plus 1. So she checked me again, and I was 8 centimeters and a plus 1. So at that point, I'm like, oh my gosh. I still am only at 8 centimeters, and the pain is like completely intolerable, unbearable. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I still have 2 more centimeters to go. So at that point, I'm like, it could be, you know, with how slowly I'm progressing, it could be, you know, another 3, 4, 5 hours. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it. I want an epidural. I'm done. So at that point, I totally gave up, and they transferred me over to the regular labor and delivery room. So I left the room for the OB. I left the room for the regular labor and delivery at 4:51. And I have, like, the pain was awful. I had to get in a wheelchair, and they wheeled me over there, and like I couldn't even see straight. I was in so much pain with the contractions, and they were coming one on top of each other, and like everything was just like a blur at that point, because I was just the pain. That's the only thing I can remember from that time period. So they got me over to the room. They got me hooked up to the IV. They put me in a hospital bed, and they said that they were going to call and the anesthesiologist in. And I remember I kept begging, is he going to be here yet? Is he here yet? Is he here yet? Why is it taking him so long to get here? I need it now. And they're like, Jordan, he's coming. Chill out. It's not been that long. I'm like, yes, it has. It's been forever. Why isn't he here yet? Why didn't they call him down? He should have been waiting for me when I got there. I was like delirious with pain, probably being a complete stubborn patient. I'm sure I was not the most pleasant person in the world at that point, because yeah, I just wasn't dealing with the pain very well. So I got the epidural at 5:10 in the morning, and it felt like it took him forever to get it in, and he was the rudest anesthesiologist. He's the rudest person I've ever met. He came in, and my birth photographer came over, and she wasn't even taking pictures. She was just holding her camera, and the anesthesiologist looked at him, and he's like, you can't take pictures of this. This is not a freak show. He said that to my birth photographer. I'm like, whoa. He was just really rude in general. He's just a really rude person. He's like, no pictures. This is not a freak show. And then he kept on telling me to sit still, which I was trying my hardest to sit still, but like during contractions, it's really hard to sit still, especially when you're in a ton of pain. So it felt like it took him forever to get it in, and Thomas said that it didn't take that long, but I felt like it was taking him a million years. Like, I don't know what he was doing back there, and he was trying to explain to me what he was doing, like explain what he was doing as he was doing. I'm like, I've already had one before. I know what you're doing. You don't have to explain it to me. Just do it. Just give it to me already. So I remember telling him that, and at that point he stopped explaining things and he moved a little quicker. But so he finally got it in, and I remember with Jayden's, I felt like the relief was instant, but this one it took a few minutes for it to start working. And I remember saying, "When's it gonna start working?" He's like, "Give it a few minutes, it'll start working." And then, like, once it finally did kick in, I felt like I was in heaven. The relief of those contractions was simply amazing. I cannot, even though I didn't want an epidural, the relief I got from it was amazing. And I felt so good. I felt at peace with everything, and I was able to get some sleep at that point. So I slept for a little bit. They came in at 7:30 in the morning to put a catheter in to drain my bladder. And then at 7:37 they checked me, and I was 10 centimeters and 100% effaced and ready to go. However, they asked me if I wanted to wait a little bit to see if she'd come down a little bit more. That way I wouldn't have to push so long. And I did, so I kind of raised my bed up a little bit and kind of let gravity take its course. And then at 10:06 they checked me again to see kind of how I was doing, and the baby's head was super low and it was time to start pushing. So I started pushing at 10:06, and the midwife was really, really nice. I loved the midwife and my nursing staff that I had. They were so sweet, and they were totally in tune with my birth plan, and they understood that things weren't going the way that I wanted them to, and there wasn't much else I could do. So they tried to do everything that they could to try to accommodate me. Stop. To try to accommodate me and make my birth as close to my birth plan as I could get it, even though my birth plan kind of went out the window once I got transferred over. So I couldn't feel my contractions at all. I didn't feel any pressure. I didn't feel the urge to push or anything. So they had to rely on the contraction monitor. Stop. They had to rely on the contraction monitor to let me know when I was contracting, so when I could push. So technically my pushing was kind of coached, but it had to be because I couldn't feel it on my own. But they all kept their voices down really low, and they had like the bright lights on me, and I asked them if I could turn them off, and they're like, sure. So they turned off the lights. The room was dim and quiet after. So but they were really, really sweet, and they would tell me when to push, and then but they made sure that they kept their voices low, and you can see all that in my video. But they were really sweet, and it's probably pushing was probably some of my fondest memories of her birth. So, because I just really liked the nursing staff. I loved the midwife, and they were just really sweet. And they asked me, she asked me if I wanted to squat, and I'm like, well, I might want to squat, but I can't feel my legs, so that's probably not such a good idea. My right side was a little less numb than my left side. I could kind of wiggle my toes on the right side, but my left side, no way. I could not move it at all. Like, it was completely paralyzed. I couldn't move it whatsoever. So my doula and one of the nurses held my legs up while I was pushing. I didn't have to have my legs in stirrups, and they were just like dead weight. So anytime they needed to move me or anything like that, I had to be physically helped because I couldn't move at all. But during pushing, the midwife actually got called out to go back to the birth center to deliver a baby. And the nurses saw that they were going to end up delivering her themselves because I was crowning and she wasn't back yet. But she got back in time. And she was born at 11:14. So I started pushing at 10:06 and she was born at 11:14. Which seems really long time. Like, that was over an hour. But I swear I didn't feel like I pushed that long. I guess it's because a lot of the time you're just waiting on another contraction to push. So she came right out, and she was indeed posterior. And she came out, and as she came out, she passed some meconium on her way out, so she kind of had it down her leg. And they handed her right to me, and she was bright-eyed as soon as she was born. She never cried out. She never cried out, just like Jayden. When I had Jayden, Jayden didn't cry either. She didn't cry out. They put her on my chest, and she was just looking around and looking at me. She was so gorgeous, and they waited for the cord to stop pulsing before they cut it, and Thomas cut the cord. And they did end up giving me some Pitocin in my IV because my labor had been so long that they said I was at a higher risk for hemorrhaging. So I did get some Pitocin, which I was fine with that since I already had the IV. I figured, like, what the heck. So they gave me some Pitocin. And my placenta was like right there, and I delivered that in one little push. And when it came out, I got to examine it, and the midwife explained to us, you know, she was pointing out like the tree of life and explaining to us what everything was. And she said my placenta was nice and healthy looking, and that was really neat because when I had Jayden, I didn't even see the placenta. I delivered it, they put it in a container, and it was gone. I didn't see it after that. But this time, you know, I actually got to look at it and see it, and it was really, really neat. And I did save it, and we're in the process of getting it encapsulated right now. So that was her labor and delivery story. If you have any questions, let me know. I know that I probably didn't include all the details, but that's as much as I can remember for right now. If you have any questions, please let me know. She was 7 pounds, 12 ounces, 20.5 inches long. And when she came out, her head, you know, she kind of had like the little cone head going on because she was in my birth canal for so long. But her little head's fine now, so she's super cute. She latched on for the first time at 11:48. So, and she latched right on, and ever since then she's been an amazing nurser. I never had to see a lactation consultant. She latched right on, and it's been a breeze breastfeeding her so far. You know, I have dealt with like the sore nipples and things like that, but as far as her latch goes, I've never had to work on her latch because her latch has been good from day one. Yeah. Alright, that's it, and I will see you guys later, and I will show you her one more time.
This is my pan. I'll make a pie.
She's sleeping. You gonna wake up? Let's see. Oh, goodness. Oh, there she is.
But let's put her on her pen.